can introduce him for us there, Ray?
Glad to have Roger Huang with us. He's the pastor of the San Francisco Worship Center, and he's the founder of City Impact Ministries in San Francisco. He's written a book just out called Chasing God, One Man's Miraculous Journey into the Heart of the City. Roger, welcome to today's Issues.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tim and Ray, for having me here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell a little bit about your background and how you ended up in the pastorate and how you ended up in San Francisco.
Okay. Well, I was born and raised in Taipei, Taiwan, and at age 15, my dad was working for China Airlines, and when they transferred him from Taipei branch to San Francisco, the whole family came with him. So we settled in 1970 right here in the city of San Francisco, and bought a home right on Fulton across from Golden Gate Park. Then we were put into, enrolled into the public school, and came from a, pretty abusive family, and so everything was new for me, the school, the country, the culture. But the situation continues, the abusive situation. And at age 17, I just decided I did not want to stay here anymore at home. So I left at age 17 and just worked my way up in the restaurant, hotel business, and but I was in the beginning I was pretty much alone. I was homeless, and then fast forward to age 27. By now, I was working for the Marriott and also another Ramada Renaissance as auditors, and I worked quite a bit. I didn't sleep as much. This particular day, I went home for a short break, and I turned the TV on. And there was a TV evangelist preaching about Jesus. Within 5 to 10 minutes, I was just overwhelmed by the message. I wept for the first time for the right reason. And right after that, I decided I wanted to find out about this God. And that's how I came to know the Lord from there.
And now you're no longer in the hotel business. You're now a pastor in San Francisco. And tell us about your ministry, because you're working in, I believe that it's called the Tenderloin District, one of the toughest parts of the city of San Francisco. Tell us about your ministry, because it's out of the ministry that came the book Chasing God.
Well, after I came to know the Lord, I was still somewhat unsure about this faith, and eventually I decided to just read the Word of God. And once again, that was another culture shock for me, being surrounded by a bunch of Christians. But I eventually went away on the weekends quite often, just to pray and fast, and I was reading the Word of God quite a bit, and it wasn't because I wanted God to give me something to do. I just pray and ask Him to restore me, and because I was very broken in so many ways, and then about a year and a half after that prayer fasting experience with God, and I began to ask Him if He can just give me something to do, and I would go after Him with everything. And He did. I ended up in this Tenderloin. Tenderloin is in the city of San Francisco, is one of the 12 districts. It's consists of 50 city blocks with 37,000 people live in it, 586 buildings. In addition to that, we have about 8,000 homeless that come through the area daily, because we have two very large feeding facilities here. And so it's very chaotic. Well, in 1984, there was a new hotel that opened up, and I was fortunate to be hired as one of the auditors. And one day I got off work, I saw the kid being harassed, and I didn't help them. I drove away, and it was from that point to my house, the 20 minutes ride, that God spoke to me. He said, "What if that was your son? What would you do?" And I said, "Well, if that was my son, I would have helped him out of that situation." And he said, "For me, they are the same." So when I got home, I was very disturbed, and I felt that was the voice of God. And so I shared with my wife, and so we both wept and cried. And the following day, we made 50 sandwiches. I brought them to the Tenderloin, and that was 29 years ago. And we just kept on going. You know, we started by going to these high-rise buildings, knocking on doors and telling them about the love of God. And eventually we opened up a rescue mission dining room. And now we have a medical, the dental, we have a food bank, elementary school, community church just for the folks who live here, and also hot meal delivery in the thousands to the buildings nearby. And we also average about 6,000 to 7,000 volunteers now every year throughout the year. So it just, we just kept on going because the love of God came upon me, and the grace that came upon me was just unbelievable. And that's what kept me going all these years.
Talking to Pastor Roger Huang. His last name is spelled Huang, but it's pronounced Wong. I got that right, don't I, Roger?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so our listeners don't say, there goes Tim again, mispronouncing somebody's name. I'm not. This is Roger's last name, pronounced Wong, spelled Huang. Chasing God is the title of his book, One Man's Miraculous Journey in the Heart of the City, talking about San Francisco and his ministry there. You say it's in the Tenderloin District. Why is it called the Tenderloin District?
Of course, there's always two sides of the story. The street version has to do with prostitution, but the real story is that for that name is long ago, the policemen would be dispatched to this area, but some did not really feel like they should be here, so there was an incentive in the pay scale if they would come to this area. So those that came and they got paid a little more, and with a little more of the money that they earned, they were able to buy the tenderloin steak.
So it's considered a bad part of town, basically. Is that right? I mean, if you ask people who live in the Bay Area, if you say tenderloin, then a positive image doesn't come up in their brain.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
It's not even on the map, and they try to change it to south of Market or north of Market, and but Tenderloin has two major crimes every hour. And
why are you there? Why are you there, Roger? Why don't you move out to the suburbs and build a nice church and do that instead?
You know, I came to know the Lord. I was overwhelmed by His grace. I prayed to Him that I would work for Him. I didn't know anything about church. I'm not a church planter. I didn't know anything about being a pastor. I didn't know anything. Everything was new to me. But I just prayed. I said, God, wherever you put me, that's where I would be. In the meantime, I was still working as auditors for both hotels. I slept very little. And then when this situation came up with this boy being harassed by a bunch of older kids, I drove away from the situation. But God said, this is where I want you to go back to. And so then I began to reason with myself. I said, well, I've been asking God that I would do anything if He could just show me. And when He did, I didn't want to turn Him down. So I just went right back in, believing that He did speak to me.
Roger, in your book, Chasing God, there are 22 chapters in the book, and I'm looking at the table of contents right now. And that's a fascinating thing you've done here. You've included the words prayer and fasting in the title of 9 of the different chapters. For instance, praying and fasting about whom to work with, praying and fasting for 230 Jones Street, praying and fasting for the Tenderloin. I think somebody picking up this book would go, wow, that must be very important. So tell us, in your ministry there in San Francisco, in a place like the Tenderloin, why is prayer and fasting so central to what you're doing?
It's first of all, I prayed and fasted for my life. I was broken, when God restored me, and when I began to read about His Word, the Bible, the living Word, and I realized there were situations in the Bible where, when it was hard and difficult and impossible, but when people would humble themselves and pray and fast unto the living God, somehow He always delivered them. So when we asked God to restore our lives, me and my wife, and then restore our family, that we will grow and multiply. And when we were called into the Tenderloin, we didn't have any connection, no influential friends, we didn't know any pastors. And then, so whenever we needed something, we will pray for God to provide, and He did it. He did provide. So over time, we realized we couldn't get any more help. We couldn't get anyone to help us because of the Tenderloin district. It's just very chaotic and very violent. And so we did that, and God came through, and that became a lifestyle.
So tell us about the breadth of what you do on a daily basis there in the Tenderloin. I know you have a church, but I think there's a school involved and some other things. So take us inside your work in the Tenderloin.
Okay, well, I'm sitting here right now in the Tenderloin, in the City Impact building. We bought a building in 1997. It's a musicians union building, and we bought it with gold coins, with checks from some ladies, and it was a miraculous act of God. So today, right now, we have 130 students now attending our inner city elementary school inside of this building. We also have a thrift store just half a block away for the Tenderloin residents. And we have rescue mission dining room. We start in the morning, we have a cafe, and then we have lunch and then dinner. And we always have a prayer and worship and a word of encouragement for them. And then throughout the day, we also provide medical help and then dental. And we have a large commercial kitchen. We cook lunch for the 130 students, as well as the homeless dinner at 4 o'clock. And we also prepare hot meals and deliver them to the nearby high-rise buildings for the shut-ins. We go around all day with 2 drivers to pick up donations from supermarkets and grocery stores. And then we have Tenderloin residents come from their buildings to pick up 10 to 15 boxes of groceries and bring them back to their own building and distribute them for the poor within those buildings. And we do have a community church on Sunday, and that is only for the people in the Tenderloin. It's not for church folks that want to come and want to join us, because that's not what it's for. It's only for the Tenderloin folks. And in that church, this church, they and us, we support 20 missionaries, because I want them to know, even though we live in the poorest district in the city, we're still way better off than some of the folks out there in the third world country. So everything we do is outwardly, and then every year we have 10 community events. In Thanksgiving month and the Christmas month, we're going to be delivering close to 25,000 meals to the nearby apartments. And so that's just some of the things that we do. You know, when we put this book together, Chasing God, we made a very clear point that we didn't want it to be about accomplishment. We want it to be about how God is able to touch someone wherever they're at and take them out of that impossible situation, give them a new path to walk on and a new purpose, and that will come straight from Him and begin to impact, their circle of influence. That's what I want this book to be for those that are in a very critical situation.
We're talking with Roger Huang, spelled Huang. He's the author of Chasing God, One Man's Miraculous Journey in the Heart of the City, published by David C. Cook.